What is up, guys? My name is George Mossey. This is the Family Chantel Season 4, Episode 13 podcast recap. Grab a snack, grab a drink, let's dissect this episode, and let's discover something you may have missed on this episode of the Family Chantel. So, less than one day after telling Chantel that he wanted a divorce, Pedro shows up at the house that they once shared together, that they literally just bought months prior, with a moving truck to actually move out of the house into an apartment that he has already secured without Chantel's knowledge. Now, Chantel wakes up in the morning completely blindsided by this, knowing that Pedro wants a divorce, but confused at how soon that process would take place. Apparently, the process is taking place right now. Chantel, feeling completely beaten down and drained from trying to save this marriage, she actually gives in and says, well, let me help you pack. Let me help you take the things out of this house so you can finally move on and be happy. Chantel actually asks, how is Pedro going to be paying for this move? Is he going to use his own money? Which he claims he will be using his own money. But in actuality, there has been $5,000 taken out of a joint business account, which he has actually used to pay for the new apartment and moving expenses. When Chantel asks Pedro where exactly he's going to be staying, he says that I don't want you to know where I will be, making things seem very strange and shady, because when you're going through a divorce process, you need to know each other's locations for serving each other papers, communication, and having an amicable divorce. Communication lines need to be open. Finally, that night, Chantel decides to go to her parents' house and open up, voice her feelings, tell them exactly what's been going on. All this time, she had been protecting Pedro, not telling her family what was going on, because in the back of her mind, this was only a rough patch. And telling her family all the things that was going on was only going to make things worse when they actually made up and got things back to the way that they were. Chantel reveals to her family that she not only didn't know where Pedro was at night, but they had not actually been intimate in over a year. After hearing this information, River says that Pedro actually is turning out to be exactly who he thought he was, going all the way back to that table brawl when we first saw the families clashing on 90 Day Fiancé. Miss Karen decides that it's better for Chantel to take some time, disappear, and think about what she wants to do and how she wants to handle this situation. Chantel does have a trip to Panama with her best friend Destiny already on the books, so she figures the best way to go about doing that is to grab a hotel room, just disappear, leave the house, have some time to be with herself and her thoughts, and try to decide what her next move would be. And not before she went to the bank and made a pretty large withdrawal. So we learned that Chantel went to the bank and withdrew $265,000 from a joint business account. Now, we do know that she didn't take that money out to go on a shopping spree. She took that money out of the bank because she felt that the money was disappearing and he wasn't telling her where it was going. And since they are going towards a divorce proceeding, it would be better if the money was put somewhere safe so it's not swindled or taken or disappears before they can amicably divide the money between parties. The only issue is Pedro is unaware that the money has been taken out, and when he goes to buy groceries and things for his apartment, he gets a decline on his credit card. Now he goes to the car, checks his online banking app, and realizes that Chantel has actually withdrew all of the money from the account, leaving him with nothing. So we learn that Pedro has not been working for over a month. He feels Chantel has made it literally impossible for him to work and function and do normal things in the house during their separation. Now Pedro is worried because he feels that he has car payment, he has bills, he has insurance, and now he has absolutely no money to pay for it. Pedro also reveals to us that Chantel once told him if he ever decided to divorce her, she would need to be paid for bringing him to the United States. Now, Pedro feels that this is a very strange statement, and the idea of the $265,000 being taken out of the joint account may be a payment that she feels that she's entitled to. So back in the DR, we learned that Nicole could not stick to her guns and end things with Alejandro. She is actually talking to him again, and they're trying to work things out, and they've given their relationship 1 year. 1 year to fix all of their problems, 1 year to get Lydia's approval, and 1 year to make things work. Now, after that year, they have both agreed to amicably split, and Alejandro promises to stop chasing her and stop showing up and let things be. Now, whether or not that can take place, we still don't know. But we do know that Lydia still has no idea that Nicole is in any communication whatsoever with Alejandro. And I don't really see how that can change. Lydia is so disapproving of Alejandro, I don't really see how Lydia has ever changed her mind about the way that she feels about anyone. But we have to remember she did sit down and have a mediation with Pedro and Chantel, and we all know exactly how Lydia feels about Chantel. So never say never when it comes to Lydia. Pedro decides to take a trip back to the home that he once shared with Chantel, and he finds that the locks have been changed and Chantel has disappeared along with her Louis Vuitton, all of her jewelry, and most of her expensive things, along with a very important paperwork. Birth certificates, K1 visa process applications, everything has disappeared. Now, Pedro has decided since Chantel wants to play dirty, he can also play dirty. And Pedro decides that he's going to start taking things as well: purses, shoes, anything that he purchased for her as a gift. And he's going to start sending things back to his mom and sister. And he wanted to keep things amicable, but he feels that Chantel has went and played dirty, so he has to play dirty as well. Pedro takes a trip back to Kieran and Thomas's house to try and locate Chantel after she refused to take any of his calls and he is unable to find her whereabouts. While at Chantel's parents' house, Pedro does approach Thomas and Winter and says that he feels that he's been victimized and robbed, and he wants to make sure that he gets his share of what Chantel took. Now, I'm not sure why Pedro thought that he would get any sympathy from Chantel's father and sister in this situation. In actuality, they actually called him out. And you know, when Thomas is calling someone out, things are very serious. We have watched 4 seasons of The Family Chantel, and we have never really seen Thomas raise his voice, call someone out, or even be a part of much drama whatsoever. So when Thomas actually accuses Pedro of a marriage scam, you know how serious and intense this situation has become. Pedro even goes as far to say that he wants half of his money and he won't press charges. He feels that Chantel has committed a robbery and that he could press charges and have her prosecuted. I don't know if that's how it works, but again, I'm not 100% sure on how divorce and separation practices work. In an interview with Miss Kieran, she was asked if she was with Chantel when the money happened to vanish from the bank. Miss Kieran informs us that she was not with Chantel when Chantel moved her own money from the bank, but the money is in a very safe place. And once the divorce proceedings are resolved, everything in this situation will be fair. Pedro has decided, since it's been days since he has been able to locate or reach Chantel, he is taking matters into his own hands and tracking her down. Now, he does have notifications set up to his phone from banking, credit cards, and most of the things that they share together. Pedro has learned that Chantel is staying at a hotel, and he tries to track her down. He even calls the hotel to confirm that she's there, but when he arrives, she is already checked out of the hotel, only to find out she has checked into a new hotel closer to the airport, which she will be leaving for Panama in merely a day or two. Upon finding Chantel at the second hotel, things get very, very heated. Pedro actually goes into Chantel's car and begins taking documents out of her car. Now, we can't watch how this confrontation ends, but we do know next week we will see the aftermath of that. But we do know the police were called and Pedro did take off from the scene. I feel like this episode has really ruined any hope that we had that this relationship was ever going to be fixed. I feel like each episode this season was another string from the heartstrings of this relationship, and the strings have finally given out and the relationship has finally tumbled to the ground. This is very, very heartbreaking and sad. I really wish that things would have had a better outcome, but in the end, I think all parties need to be happy and everyone needs to do what's best for them, even if it means that they aren't together. So far, we still don't have a definite answer of what Chantel actually has done to make Pedro feel the way that he does about her in this relationship. We are hoping for next week in that episode to get a better idea and understanding of what exactly took place that shifted the way that he feels. Or do you guys think that this might be a marriage scam? I want to know what you guys think, because there's a lot going around online and there's a lot of theories and discussion. What do you think is going on in this situation? All right, guys, that is it for the Family Chantel Season 4, Episode 13 podcast. I'm George Mossey. Make sure you're live tuning with me every Monday night for the Family Chantel, and I'll talk to you all really soon.